I was on mute. Okay, it's 12:15. So I say we can just get started. This is Molly from Mountain Roots Food Project. Molly, what is your title exactly with Mountain Roots?
My current title is Local Food Distribution and Development Coordinator, which is a mouthful.
Yeah, I love it though. That's a good one. So she is going to tell us about food security. And when you guys have questions, you can just put it down in the chat and then I will read those questions to Molly at the end. We'll have about 10 minutes or so for questions, and then you'll be able to touch on anything that comes up. But I say we can just, yeah, go ahead and get started. So Molly, off to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexis. And thank you everybody for joining this presentation on food security and food sovereignty in the Gunnison Valley and about some of the work that Mountain Roots is doing on that front. I also want to say so many thanks and acknowledgements to the Gunnison Valley Producers Guild and the Center for Cold Climate Food Security at Western for putting on this 7th annual conference. It's really great to see so many people participating in these super important conversations. So thank you so much for joining us today. So as Alexis said, my name is Molly Maisel. I'm the local food distribution and development coordinator at Mountain Roots Food Project. I'm a master's student at Western Colorado University and working on my graduate fellowship and master's project work in this role at Mountain Roots. And as Sue did earlier today, I just want to begin with the acknowledgement that we live, work, and cultivate food on the traditional lands of the Ute Mountain Ute and Ute people, a community unjustly erased and excluded from being a part of this landscape in the present day. So thank you for acknowledging that with me. As Alexis said, we'll hold questions to the end. I'm afraid that I've got a lot to cover. So in the interest of time, I think that's the best way to go. So please do hold on to those questions and I'll be sure to address, I hope, all of them at the end of the presentation. Cool. So in just a little bit more about what I do at Mountain Roots. So in my current role in local food distribution, a big piece of my job is managing sales. Sales of food produced on the Mountain Roots farm and growing spaces, but also on special projects that help to increase sales to our various partner producers associated with the Producers Guild. So looking forward to ramp up a lot of that work this coming year. However, last year I worked on the Mountain Roots food security team, working on emergency food relief during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So between working in no-cost emergency food relief and in efforts to bolster the local food economy for our producers, I hope that I'm well positioned to provide you with some new insights and information today regarding the various components that do make up individual and communal food security, and to let you know about ways to be a part of food security and food sovereignty here in the Gunnison Valley. So getting into definitions a little bit. So the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, they define food security as the state in which all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active, healthy life. I think that's a great definition and covers a lot of the bases. Food is indeed one of our most basic human needs, and the choices that we make around food impact the health of our bodies, but also play a significant role in the social, economic, and environmental health of our community. At the turn of the century, all of our food systems were local and regional. But the development of the global industrialized food system that has evolved since World War II has significantly changed the way that our modern societies eat and our relationship to where our food comes from. It has also incurred negative impacts on our environment, including the widespread use of pesticides, degradation of soils, and tremendous use of fossil fuels. So by returning to more localized food systems supported by community members of those localities, we put ourselves on a path towards healing our bodies, healing our planet, and making our economies and communities more secure. Secure by keeping dollars in our local economies, secure against supply chain disruptions, secure, a bit more secure against the trajectory towards some of the irreversible effects of a changing climate. And I won't say more about that because Adrian Fielder spoke so eloquently about this earlier today. So if you missed his keynote address this morning, please go check out that video once it is posted and recorded. So with all of this in mind, Mountain Roots Food Project, we're a local nonprofit 501c3 here in Gunnison Valley and has been working for 10 years to transform this local food system, that of the Gunnison Valley, to revitalize local agriculture and promote community support of local agriculture. So as stated in the Mountain Roots mission statement shown here, this is done through enhancing healthy connections between earth, food, and community through education and empowerment. And these are the cornerstones of our work. So we're working to empower people in rural Colorado communities to take an active role in building food resources, increasing health equity, reducing disparities, renewing connection to the land, and prioritizing health of the individual, our communities, and our planet. So why is some of this important here in our region? So some of the things that we know, rural Colorado communities are under-resourced, as many rural areas are. And we know that effective partnerships in rural communities can leverage those limited resources. We believe that communities know best what is needed in their respective communities. So localization of food systems may look a little different in different areas. And this work is most effectively done when led by local constituent leaders. Certainly, addressing health equity requires going beyond food issues and connecting community members with further resources that address a variety of needs. This includes, but is not limited to, safe and affordable housing, the quality of education, reliable and affordable health services, a communal ethic of inclusivity, and a celebration of diversity in communities, I would definitely say. And access to healthy food is a part of this greater system of community health and well-being. So on that same train of thought, change happens at the intersection of multiple sectors and focus areas. So again, these strong partnerships with other sectors is critical to this work, of which a sustainable community food system is a key piece. So what exactly is a community food system, and what does that mean to be local? The term local, it's a very general term, and it is open to interpretation. So I think it's worth at least putting a few definitions here, at least for purposes of our conversation today. So a food system integrates all components of the food cycle. This is another thing Adrian talked to us about earlier today. So food production, the processing, distribution, consumption, and disposal, or that recovery piece of it, is all part of the food cycle. And if done well, the system will build resiliency, enhance the environmental, economic, social, and nutritional health of a particular place. And for our goals and purposes, as community food advocates, the more local and sustainable each aspect of the cycle, the better. As for defining local, I think that will definitely vary by community based on a number of things, including geography, climate, access pathways. I could go on and on. In the work that I do at Mountain Roots, I tend to think of local as contained to the Gunnison Valley, and expand out to the term regional to talk about the connectivity of systems in the greater Southwest Colorado region. So I listened to Sue Wyman speak yesterday evening about raising backyard chickens, and Sue addressed the fact that her chicken business is not as local as she'd like it to be. The feed comes to her from outside of the valley, thus making it not as local as she wants. And she also advocated for raising meat rabbits, whose feed can be purely grown in the valley and would get closer to that more closed loop system locally. Additionally, the cows and pigs raised in the valley for meat are processed in Montrose outside of the valley and returned for distribution. While I think that those are very important pieces of the puzzle to think critically about, I also think that those regional partnerships only make us stronger, more resilient, and provide a greater diversity of sustainably raised, pretty darn closely grown and raised goods here. So I don't believe it has to be an all or nothing conversation about being purely sovereign here in the Gunnison Valley. Isn't it wonderful that we can grow greens like nobody else here in our cool climate and can share those greens with people in the Hotchkiss area, and then also get to enjoy the abundance of fruits and other warmer season crops that they do so well. Moving on, let's talk more about food security. So this is yet another definition than the one I quoted at the head of the talk. And I think this is also a really great one and touches different points. So this one's from a 2003 study published on food security by a couple of nutrition scientists at Rutgers University, Mike Ham and Ann Bellows. Community food security is a condition in which all community residents obtain a safe, culturally acceptable, nutritionally adequate diet through a sustainable food system that maximizes community self-reliance and social justice. So food insecurity may be long-term or temporary. It may be influenced by a number of factors, including income, employment, race, ethnicity, age, disability. Food insecurity often happens when people are facing other hardships due to low incomes, such as difficulty affording housing, social isolation, health problems, medical costs. Food insecurity is most commonly associated with low incomes and poverty rates, and certainly the risk for food insecurity increases when money to buy food is limited or not available. But money is not the only contributing factor. Access to healthy food is a big one. It's an unfortunate truth that because the challenges of cost, distance, transportation, availability, lack of nutritional education, those on low incomes often have little choice but to turn to fast food, processed foods, and other cheap calories. It's an understandable phenomenon, right? Given the state of affairs handed to us by a global industrialized food system and systemic inequalities. And as many of you are likely aware, these types of diets have been scientifically proven to increase the risks of developing conditions such as obesity, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, and several types of cancers, among many other things, I'm sure. So now I'd like to show you a snapshot of food insecurity in the Gunnison Valley. So the data tells us that 1 in 10 Coloradans is food insecure, meaning that they lacked consistent access to reliable food during the past year. That's about 11% of our state population and over 500,000 Coloradans. Colorado as a whole has improved somewhat in this number, down from 13% of Coloradans being food insecure a couple of years ago. And this is slightly better than the national average, which is also 13%. But rural pockets of the state fare worse than urban centers, as shown on this map. So of 64 counties in Colorado, at the rate of 13.7% food insecurity, Gunnison County ranks 58th out of 64, meaning only 6 other counties have a higher rate of food insecurity than Gunnison County. Now, the county's statistical average, like I said, is 13.7%. But we know that that average is for the entire county. So I feel that it's worth mentioning here that the income disparities we see between the two most populous centers of our valley, I'm talking Up Valley and Down Valley, Crested Butte and Gunnison, this rate is much, much lower in Crested Butte. And this number is getting closer to 25% in the city of Gunnison, which is 1 in 4 almost residents living with food insecurity here in the city of Gunnison. So why would this be? First of all, Gunnison County is considered a USDA Class 2 food desert. And food deserts are located in high poverty areas, such as sparsely populated rural areas or densely populated low-income urban centers where people have very limited access to fresh, healthy food. The farther away someone lives from a grocery store or a reliable source of fresh food, the harder it is to maintain a healthy diet that incorporates fresh fruits and vegetables. So now that we've talked a little bit about the actual state of affairs, let's look at some of the initiatives that Mountain Roots and our community partners are activating and the impacts that we are seeing. I want to introduce this food security continuum that drives the programs at Mountain Roots. we're working to further localize that full food system I was speaking about earlier by growing more food, by supporting our local producer partners in growing and selling more food, and by empowering more community members to also grow a portion of their own food. This increased production of local food inherently leads to increased access of local food. And we are working even more this year to try and streamline that access piece. We want to level the playing field between accessing locally grown food versus popping into the city market and getting whatever's there. As you can imagine, there are numerous challenges to that goal, including timing, location, scheduling, pricing, and others. But it's something we really feel strongly about chipping away at, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Self-sufficiency is another component of this continuum that's increasing knowledge and skills when it comes to growing food, shopping within one's budget, but still eating healthfully, how to prepare some of the cool, funky vegetables that grow really well here in the Gunnison Valley, like turnips and rutabagas and many others. So keeping these three components in mind: access, self-sufficiency, and the localization of the food system. I'm going to now attempt to give you a whirlwind tour of what these initiatives are happening in our valley right now. So please consider this a menu of calls to action. There are multiple ways of getting involved in these efforts at multiple different scales. And I'm only going to touch on some that are largely tied to Mountain Roots. And I know that you've learned of many other opportunities from our other speakers at this conference. I know that the Farm to Table Conference is not just meant to expand your knowledge, but to inspire action, action that is so needed in the local food movement. So please take note as I go through some of these and ask yourself as I go, is this something I want to know more about or engage with? And if so, I would encourage you to please do that. Please do that. It takes a village, and we're definitely all in this together. So here we go. Starting with the community farm. So Mountain Roots operates a 2-acre educational working farm on the land at Cold Harbor Ranch. This farm serves to grow significant volumes of food for our community, as well as serves as a training incubator for young aspiring farmers. How can you get involved here? You can volunteer here. Our first volunteer days will be our dig-in days as we prepare the soil and start to sow the seeds in this coming spring. A new working farm, also working on that localization piece. The Glacier Farm is now entering its 2nd year of production, and it's a collaborative conservation project in partnership with the Crested Butte Land Trust. Same call to action here. Volunteer days will be available at this farm, and this is an awesome spot that I definitely recommend you check out if you haven't already. Freight farms. Mountain Roots is the proud owner of 4 recycled shipping containers converted into climate-controlled hydroponic growing systems that will enable us to grow greens, herbs, and other crops 365 days a year. I won't spend too much time nerding out on this next slide, but essentially these things are set up to grow vertically on 256 towers per container, allowing the equivalent capacity of 1 acre's worth of land per container. And we've got 4 of them now. So this is a major step in season extension technology here in the Gunnison Valley. If this project is the most exciting to you, Mountain Roots is currently undergoing a capital campaign to cover costs associated with this substantial investment of infrastructure and getting this project fully operational. So this is a specific program of ours seeking much needed donations. Moving on to youth education, Mountain Roots has such a robust farm to school program that I cannot do it justice in the time that I have this afternoon. So I won't try, but I would be remiss if I failed to mention that our youth education team is strongly partnered with the Gunnison Watershed School District and is conducting year-round programming with our next generation of leaders. The kids really, really do need this stuff. We have in-school programming and partnerships with the cafeterias for school lunches. There's after-school enrichment education. There's school gardens at each of the schools, summer camps, kids cook classes, and I'm sure other things that I'm forgetting to say right now. Truly awesome stuff going on in the schools. So if you want to learn more, volunteer or donate, or learn about opportunities to get your kids involved, please check out our website for more information, or contact Lily, our farm to school director. All right, now jumping into some programs specifically housed under the Mountain Roots Food Security Wing. So Backyard Harvest, consider this the best kind of food drive ever. One that collects fresh produce grown by backyard gardeners, community gardens, and others, and redistributes it to residents facing food insecurity. Ways to get involved: if you're a home gardener or farmer, you can donate any surplus you find yourself with. This is a great solution to the problem of having too many zucchinis. Or go further and strategically grow a row for donation. Or you could volunteer to collect donations. And if you do that, you might get to ride around this super sweet trike that we acquired last year that we're pretty excited about. Cool. So Cooking Matters is up next. This is a no-cost 6-week cooking course offered 3 to 4 times a year, unless there's a global pandemic, which we recently learned. We were not able to do this program last year. It teaches participants to shop for and cook healthy meals on a budget. It is taught by volunteers, and we are planning to revive this course this summer and fall, knowing that we might need to tailor it a bit to meet COVID-safe protocols. Ways to get involved in this: volunteer teachers and assistants are certainly always needed if that is something that you have a knack and a talent for. Oh, here's some nice pictures from our Cooking Matters course, which I could have been clicking through while talking. All right, community gardens. So we manage a couple different community gardens, and these are spaces focused on providing community members with education, support, grow your own access, and camaraderie in the garden. Anybody can sign up, whether a seasoned gardener or never picked up a garden tool, new gardener. We grow, learn, share, and split the harvest together. So it's great for anybody with limited time or space at home to grow their own vegetables. Last one on this slide, Wick and Senior Resources, CSAs. So we have partnered with Gunnison County Health and Human Services to provide fresh produce boxes and even CSA shares to community members enrolled in the Wick programs. Wick is Women, Infants, Children Food Benefit Program, or those who are involved with the local Senior Resources Program. So I will talk more about our CSA program in a little bit, but it is worth noting here that we offer an option for our CSA subscribers to add a share for a family in need. So subscribers can optionally choose to add on $50 or more to their own CSA purchase to provide one full week's box worth of food for a family of 4 through these programs. So that's a neat offering that we have. The Mountain Roots Victory Garden Revival. This was launched last year in the wake of the pandemic. And this program drew inspiration off of those Victory Garden movements of World War I and World War II, where concerned citizens in that uncertain and economically disrupted time grew their own food security. So the aim of this program is to increase the food security and sovereignty of the Gunnison Valley by mentoring individuals on how to grow their own food. We had a lot of fun throughout the season last year, getting to know our community members that are already growing their gardens. There's a lot of us. And also to start support those who were interested but hadn't yet quite entered the realm of home gardening. So we hope to keep these efforts going post-pandemic. And the call to action here is simple. Grow your own if you can. Feed yourself, share with your neighbors, donate to Backyard Harvest. If every home was growing a vegetable garden, just imagine the reduction in imported vegetables we would need to see in the grocery store. And if you want help and support in getting a new garden set up, you can contact us, and we are providing this program to help with that. The free neighborhood produce markets. This was another emergency response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This was launched very quickly last year, not long after unemployment rose, schools closed, and the community was really first shaken by the economic impacts associated with the pandemic that hit hard very quick. So what I think was especially neat about this program, we didn't just offer a weekly supply of fresh, healthy produce to community members facing challenging times, but the large part of the food given away was purchased from local and regional farmers whose businesses were also taking an unforeseen hit. So thanks to COVID food relief grant funding, that allowed us to really prioritize the local producers while also feeding our community members during an unprecedented time. This one is something on our future horizons, a produce prescription program. So this is an evidence-based program model with proven success around the country by organizations that are similar to Mountain Roots. So it's something that we've decided to pursue, if not this year, then in the very near future. And the idea is to partner with the local healthcare system. I was talking about that cross-sector interaction, and the Gunnison Valley Health here in our valley, they have expressed interest in pursuing this program. So it is something that we're looking into. And the idea of the produce prescription program is to empower local healthcare providers to write prescriptions to increase intake of fresh fruits and vegetables to their patients who have health conditions that would benefit. And those prescriptions would come in the form of no to low cost vouchers redeemable with local food sources like farmers market or direct with our local producers. So we're excited to get this one going. Next up, CSAs, community supported agriculture. But, in general, take away from this slide, just, being a patron of local producers. It's that time of year where CSA subscriptions are open for registrations. Various producers in our region, all of the guild here, they offer a CSA, and I would encourage you to check them out and choose the one that's right for you, if it does fit your lifestyle. And the model of a CSA is to encourage community members to invest some of their food dollars upfront pre-season in the hard work of local farmers and ranchers. Those CSA subscribers or members will then receive a weekly share of produce over the course of the growing season and just get the best of what is around over our season. So like I said, many farms run their very own CSA programs. But in addition, at Mountain Roots, I'll just put in an extra plug for that. We curate a multi-farm collaborative CSA program that brings together the products of various producers in the region. Our Mountain Roots farm will contribute a large part of the veggies in our CSA, and we also will be featuring veggies and poultry from Gunnison Gardens, veggies from Iola Valley Farm, pasture-raised pork products from from Calder Farm, grass-fed beef from Parker Pastures, eggs from D3 Plus Eggs, bread from the Luna Bakery, and also from a variety of orchards and other producers in the North Fork Valley, primarily to help with our fruit share. So getting great stuff from over there. And this is just CSAs, but there are lots of avenues to purchase your food from our local farmers if you take the time to look for it. And in my personal opinion, I think it's pretty awesome that a major way an individual can contribute to strengthening local food sovereignty is by being a CSA shareholder. That's such a win-win. By purchasing a share, you're investing in local farmers, ensuring they have a market for the seeds that they sow, and a viable business moving forward. Our local farmers can and will grow more food to feed our valley if they know that that food is desired and the demand is reliable. This is mission critical. We do need to rally around our farmers, seek out and purchase their products that they work so hard to grow. And they grow it in a way that's healthy for our nutrition, healthy for their animals, and healthy for the planet and our community. So really can't stress that one enough. So please, I will end with that. I invite you to join us in creating a healthy future for the Gunnison Valley. We all do have a role to play, as outlined in the keynote presentation today. We all can contribute something differently, and I certainly encourage you to do that. So with that, I will wrap up the presentation part of it. Here is some contact information for myself there in the middle. And I also want to say thank you to my colleagues, Kaylin and Holly, for their contributions of putting this slide deck together and sharing information with you that they wanted to make sure that you heard. So I can leave this up for another second, but it looks like we've got maybe another 15 minutes, and I am happy to open this time up for Q&A if we do have any questions.
Yes, we do have some questions. Kimberly says that she loves the Freight Farms idea and she's considering it for Lake City. And she is wanting to know more about the recycled program because she's seeking the system for a 4 seasons unit here.
So for the recycled program, specifically for the Freight Farms?
I think so.
Guys, can you hear me?
Jump on in, Kimberly. Yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks so much for the amazing presentation. I just want to start off that way. It's just kind of great to see it so comprehensively put together in such an easy go-to way. I like how accessible your programs seem to be with the community, and I just want to give a double thumbs up for that. So thank you. I'm a little bit nervous talking in front of everybody, but I have checked out the Freight Farms idea, and you mentioned something about it, a recycled program. Did you get them at a discount, or I guess that's more of my question.
That's a great question. So shipping containers like that, they've just been built for what they do. They ship things on, big ships and to like transport. So when I said that they're recycled, I mean, any shipping container that's converted to be something else is by that recycled. So that's what I meant by that. They're not cheap. They're not used. If you're getting a fully functional, climate controlled, refurbished shipping container, I'm not aware of anywhere. It seems kind of more of a newer technology that I'm not aware of anywhere you could get them used. So I'm sorry that term recycled kind of threw you off there. These things are pretty pricey, which is why we are actually running a capital campaign right now to cover that investment. So that's the big upfront with the shipping containers and the freight farms.
If I may ask you, the general sort of price range that I was hearing, getting it shipped from the northeastern states is like $125,000 per unit. Is that what you kind of calculated as well?
I would probably want to connect you, and Kimberly, I would love for you to grab my email. Actually, I'm going to give you our directors, and I'm going to put that in the chat because she would have more of that like pinpoint pricing. I wouldn't want to misquote a number, but I really would encourage you to reach out and get that very specific question covered, because I wouldn't want to give you the wrong thing. But that does sound about right. They're pretty pricey.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is Holly's email. She's our director and would have that.
Also, with the produce prescription program, will it come with recipes so the individuals will know how to use those vegetables?
That's a wonderful question. Yes, that education piece is definitely part of it. And so what we're looking to do is dovetail the produce prescription program with the Cooking Matters classes that I had already mentioned. So we run those a few times a year. I think the Gunnison Valley Producers Guild Cookbook, though, is another great resource that I am interested in adding into programs like that, just to increase that cooking education, because we would make it optional that they can enroll in the Cooking Matters courses as well, but understanding that schedules may not align. But yes, that is certainly something we've thought about. I think that education piece is critical to any program like that. You can't just be like, here's a voucher to get a bunch of rutabagas and good luck,
Definitely. Then Adrian had a question. He says, how is school garden education going in the Valley, and what opportunities do you see in that regard for Mountain Roots or others?
That's a great question. And I think we are doing really well here in Gunnison Valley with the school gardens. We have got a school garden at each of the schools here, and our school district is very small. So I think that makes it a little bit easier for Mountain Roots to partner with the Gunnison Watershed School District to provide that garden education across the board. So all the kids who grow up here and go through the community school, they do get that garden education. It's built into their curriculum just because of the strength of that partnership. So I feel that we could be a model of this kind of program for other areas. I've talked to colleagues in the San Luis Valley, and they've said that their farm to school programs are not as strong and would like to learn more about that. And they're that much more spread out and have more difficulties making those connections. So I think that's really community by community, how successful that can be. I think it works really well in a small community such as ours with a dedicated organization like Mountain Roots getting involved with that small school district. So I don't know if that perfectly answers your question, but we try to make those connections across the board for the kids and keep it going throughout the summer. As I mentioned, we run various different summer camps and also work with the school lunches so that the kids know that some of the ingredients in the lunches that they're eating cooked at the school came from their garden or other local sources in the Valley. Did that kind of answer the question?
I think so. I think that was great. Is that required for the kids, or is it like an elective they can choose, or does every child go through y'all's program?
All the children get to experience the garden. I do, that is built into what they're doing at some point throughout the school year. But I would say the majority of our other programs, like after school enrichment programs, summer camps, things like that, those do need to be, the kids need to be signed up by their parents. So not everyone's going to get as in depth. It kind of depends on the level they're going to take it to based on, I think, their interest and their parents' interest to enroll them in things. But all the kids do get to at some point experience working in the garden next to their school.
That's awesome. Thanks. That's all the questions in the chat, but if any of you guys just want to turn your video on, you can definitely just ask a question. We're a pretty small group here. So if, we can all just kind of talk about any food security things that come up in our last 5 minutes or so, if there's anything else. Or Molly, if you have anything else that you really want to talk about.
I think, and I'm pausing to just make sure I don't steamroll any questions, but something I guess I will talk a little bit more about that I didn't dive into as much maybe as I could have was that streamlining the access piece. I had talked a little bit about trying to level that playing field between accessing locally grown sustainable food and popping into the city market and getting what's there. So I do want to mention that the website that we are selling our collaborative CSA, we're also making efforts. It's not ready yet, but we're going to add a tab on there so people can kind of shop a la carte from the different producers in the region. So a lot of our producers have a great website and point of sale for their stuff, but we are really trying to find a way to house everything under one umbrella and see if that can streamline things for upping the orders, by both wholesale and retail consumers. So if you are, cruising around our CSA sales website, keep an eye on that, because we're looking to really expand that out as we move forward, because we do think that that competitive advantage that the big chain stores have is something that we do want to focus on and tackle on a bit. And on a similar vein, we're also working with an 18-month, nearly $100,000 USDA local food promotion planning grant to further look for ways we can break down some of these barriers. So those are some of the things I didn't quite get into and thought take advantage if you guys don't have questions. But if anyone does, I think we still have a couple more minutes. And if you don't, that's all right too.
Looks like we just had a question come in.
Cool.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Delia. Good luck. Good luck with that project. And please do contact us if you want to chat more about what you have going on up there in Fairbanks. That sounds wonderful.
It's awesome. We have someone from Alaska joining us. Who knew?
Great.
Okay, we'll give it another minute, and then if not, we will just take a little 3-minute break, and then we'll start our season extension and greenhouse talk with Matthew Ozet from Iola Valley Farm. And that talk will it'll just be about how to extend your season, which is something we have to do here in Gunnison with our 60-day growing season. That's actually about 30. So yeah, Molly, is there anything else? I thought you did an awesome job. That was a really beautiful presentation, and I really appreciate your time.
I just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for all the work you have put into organizing this conference. This is so special. I'm humbled to be a part of it, and really inspired by all the speakers. So thanks to everybody speaking and attending. This is such a cool thing. Thanks for putting it on.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Cool.